Hello, YouTube. Now, I want to talk about something that kind of intrigues me, and that is backwards compatibility. Now, I have no problem with backwards compatibility. I think it's great, but everybody seems to make a big deal about it when a console gets rid of their backwards compatibility or just doesn't have it in general. Now, I find that a bit strange because if everybody remembers, the Super Nintendo never had any backwards compatibility with the Nintendo Entertainment System. The Genesis did not have, to my knowledge, any backwards compatibility with the Master System. The Sega CD, the Sega Saturn never had any backwards compatibility with the Sega CD, and the Dreamcast never had any backwards compatibility with the Sega Saturn. The N64, nothing with the Super Nintendo. So with that in mind, why are people making such a big deal over backwards compatibility when back in the days of cartridges and early CD ROM consoles are people making such a big deal about it, whether the systems of today or the future systems have it now? Because honestly, I owned a PS3 at one point that had the backwards compatibility with the PS2, but I never played PS2 games on it. I played PS3 games on it. I now have the slim model, and I don't play a lot of my PlayStation games on it. I mean, I own PlayStation games and I know they can play it, but I don't really play them that often, so it really doesn't matter. Plus, I have PlayStations anyway. So, and the same thing with the Wii. Yes, it has the GameCube backwards compatibility, although they took that out last year. Again, I don't feel the urge of playing GameCube games. Now, that's also because I don't have any GameCube memory cards, so that kind of defeats the purpose. But definitely with the GameCube games, I would definitely replay those on the Wii. But when it comes to Xbox games on the Xbox 360, there's only one game I'd ever play, and that would be Halo 2. I wouldn't play Knights of the Old Republic. I wouldn't play Knights of the Old Republic 2. I wouldn't even play Halo 1 on it. Plus, I have an original Xbox anyway to do that stuff with, so it kind of defeats the purpose anyway. And again, I have, and that's my thing is, why are people so up in arms about whether the next console generation will have backwards compatibility with the previous console's games, especially if you have the current generation consoles? It's like, so you can't play a PS3 because you have a PS4? And that seems to be what kind of seems like it really confuses me. Yes, I understand systems break down and all that, but you can also get them repaired. And a little heads up for those of you who may not know, you can buy warranties for your PlayStation 3 at any time for, I believe it's $60. Now, I understand that $60 is quite a bit of money, but you can get a 2-year warranty for $60, and I believe it's $44 if you have the PlayStation Plus membership for 2 years of warranty. So it wouldn't cost you money to have Sony repair it for 2 years. And $44 when you think about it, or even $60 for 2 years, that's $30 a year. And if your system happens to break down, then you can just send it in and get it repaired. And you can keep renewing this 2 years every time it runs out, because it's now a thing that you can buy on the PlayStation Store, which I find very interesting. But again, people didn't complain about whether the console could play the previous console games before, and now all of a sudden with the PS3 everybody's up in arms. With the Xbox everybody's up in arms. With the Wii, I'm not sure, and I can't remember if the Wii U will be able to play Wii games. I know it won't be able to play GameCube games, which is kind of a bummer. But the thing is, again, the Dreamcast didn't have backwards compatibility. The Super Nintendo didn't. The N64, Dreamcast, Saturn, so on and so forth, didn't have backwards compatibility. So why is this such a huge issue on whether, like, people are like, I won't buy a PS3 unless they have PS2 playback. Why? A PS2 is $100, and plus I'm pretty sure you still have one if you, like, if you're like, I won't buy a PS3 because it doesn't play PS2 games, either you have a lot of PS2 games that you still have that PS2, or you don't have that many PS2 games that you're really wanting a PS3 to be able to play PS2 games. And I can understand the whole, but I don't want to have to unhook and hook in. There are adapters that you can hook multiple AV cables into, or RF cables into. So if you really wanted to, you could probably find a substitute for not having to plug in and plug out your consoles. Now, I have multiple consoles that I have to unplug, but, you know, I have a Super Famicom right here as I kind of throw it in. Yes, and unfortunately the AV cable broke for the N64, so I'm using the same AV cable for my N64 and my Super Famicom. So all I do is unplug the back and just plug it in and plug it and so forth. Now, the thing is, as I go to plug that back in, I mean, I could have waited for the end of the video, but the thing is, the PS2 adapter works in a PS3, so if HD is not really your thing, or you don't have an HD TV, and I know, again, this is kind of an issue, whereas my N64 and Super Famicom are right beside me on my table that my computer is at, it's not that big of a deal, but again, if you can have some sort of a similar setup, you can easily just plug the backs into the PS2 and the PS3. It works fine. Even the PS1, PS2, PS3 thing works. So there are ways around it. So I'm not 100% sure why the whole hubbubaloo over backwards compatibility, because whether it's I don't want to plug in so many systems, or I don't want to get up and switch all the cables, there are ways around that, being splitters. Most previous AV jacks, AV jacks work with higher and lower consoles, and so on and so forth. So there's ways around it, but I want your opinion on why you think backwards compatibility is a big thing. Maybe you don't think it's a big thing. Either way, your opinion is important. So I'd like to get your feedback on it. Either make a video response or comment down below. And if you like this discussion and like to see more discussions, or like to see some of my other videos, please subscribe, share this video, like this video, so on and so forth. And may the 4th be with you, and have a great day.